Well, well, well. Yeah. Good morning. And good afternoon for you. Yeah. Welcome back to
Good
our
morning.
exactly. Well, welcome back to our second take or second official podcast, where we are gonna. What are we gonna talk about? What are we gonna talk about? Tell me.
Well, today we're gonna talk about Serial Experiments Lane. At least,
Yes, sir.
that's what it's called.
Yes, sir. We're we're
I'm gonna
gonna
say more
we're gonna
about it.
try. We're gonna try for sure.
We're
I'm
gonna
not
try figuring it out at least.
exactly, exactly like. At the
Like
end of the day, I think
it was one fucked up show, to be honest.
to, to minimize it. I swear to the, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, it was one heck of a show. You finished it, right?
Yeah, I finished it
All
this
right,
morning,
and
to be precise.
16 episodes, and
Now it's 13 episodes,
are you
isn't it?
sure?
Well,
Wait,
yeah,
I can.
13.
No. I can fact check you right now.
No, you
You
can't.
ain't. Yes, I can. Wait. But yeah, 16 episodes. No, it's 13 or 16 episodes. Wait, hold up. Look,
It's
one, two,
13.
three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Nah, it's 15. It's
Dude,
15. I fact checked you
you
right now.
kidding?
It's 15 episodes right
What
in
did
front
you
of me.
watch the? Come on.
Yeah, I watched
Ah.
15 episodes. What are you talking about? Fuck is you
Well,
talking
have it
about?
your way.
1,
Have
2,
it your
3,
way.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There you go. What did you watch? What did you watch?
Well, I guess the main anime, it's it's about 13 episodes.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right.
I've heard there's like, I don't know, is it an OVA?
What's an
I'm not
OVA?
sure about it. Wait,
What do you mean?
OVAs. Come on, you gotta know what an OVA is.
I don't know what an OVA is. I'm
It's
not hip
like,
to these things.
I wouldn't say it's a spin-off because it isn't,
Oh, okay.
but it's like a filler episode, just like, you know, they
Oh,
just put those
okay. Filler
episodes for
episode.
fans and stuff.
Why don't you just say filler episode? You don't have to be this
Well,
complicated.
because it's not really a filler episode.
Whatever. Never mind.
No,
But okay. So
but
let's
mostly unrelated to the plot.
could
That's the
be.
point of an OVA.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
weird that they
Wait,
would
wait, wait,
that
wait,
they
wait.
would put. Okay, but it's weird generally that you would put filler episodes in a around 13 to 15 episode one what season. That's weird. I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, they didn't even
Yeah,
do a second season.
I'm still saying it's 13 episodes, but
What
you
what
have
does
it
what
your
does
way.
nah. I have it the right
It's
way.
still 13.
Never mind. Anyway,
Why are we even arguing about this?
doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So both of us watched it. Um, right around till the end, and from my personal experiences at the very least, I think I came out with more questions at the end than answers at all. Like I don't like for full
The whole
honesty,
series
right?
was
Like I
just
could.
questions, to be honest.
That's
The whole series was
exactly
just questions. Like
like.
you watched the first episode, it already was like a big question mark.
I mean, the first
And
episode was like I watched the first episode, right? Like we kind of like talked about this before, um, where we're like catching up. I watched the first episode and I kind of left the series just like okay, I'll watch it later or whatever. And then you were talking about like cyber things, right? Like that didn't even like come to my mind when like this whole technology, which we're definitely gonna come back to that, like the technology stuff. But like I didn't even realize it. I just thought it was just some weird horror series, and
yeah,
it's
well,
still it still kind of feels like a horror series. You know what I mean? Like
it is though, by
is it?
definition. It's, well, actually the genres listed by my anime list are
Uh,
dementia, drama, mystery, psychological, sci-fi, and supernatural. So
I
it has
yeah,
a lot of genres.
but it's such a weird like it's a weird soup of everything. Like I really can't define it, and yeah, it's I mean I still don't know what the story really was. I mean, no, no, that's false. I know what the story was to a great extent. Um, all right, I'll be coming. Get out, get out. I'll cut that part. But yeah. What was like? Okay, so all right, let's go through the whole story, right? Like we like for us to like discuss it, like to really like
So
discuss the
first of
questions or
all, for
whatever.
all those who haven't watched it,
Yeah,
or who don't know what it is, um, it's an anime from. Well, technically, it's based on a manga. The
yeah,
anime aired in 1998,
yes.
so let's say it's pretty old.
It for today's standards,
For
yeah,
us, I mean, it's older than me, so
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I hope that qualifies as old.
No, I'm sure
But
it
it's
does.
definitely not outdated.
Definitely not. It stands still today. It's pretty relevant. But what did you think about? So let's just dive into it. Like, what did you
Okay,
understand from it? Let's start
maybe
from
first we
that.
should say like more or less what it's about. It's about
What
this girl
exactly?
called Lane.
Lane,
Um,
like a
and
very
well,
young
she's
girl,
like
like in Japan.
exactly. She's I don't know her age. What's her age? Like she's
I
a
would
high school
say
girl probably.
you would
Isn't
say
she high
high
school?
school.
Or is
I
it
would say
middle
like
school?
maybe middle school, but like early high school would like it would work either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
right around that
let's
age.
just say she's more or less 15, 16. I don't know. Maybe
I would
14.
agree there. Yeah, yeah, I would agree there.
And yeah. And she
And
well, what
just a bunch.
happens is it's kind of weird to explain because it has something to
Exactly.
do with the virtual world and the real world. Like, it's like it's difficult to
It.
explain because what happens is one of her classmates seemingly commits suicide, seemingly,
What do you mean seemingly?
and because it's seemingly,
I know.
I mean,
We'll come
okay,
to it.
it looks like she jumps from a building
Okay.
and she ends up like she should be dead, but somehow she keeps writing her fellow students emails,
Exactly.
saying
And
she entered some kind of virtual world called the
not
Wired.
not only that, it's that's how like the first episode started, right? Like that was the whole mystery for me at beginning was like, okay, so like you said, like seemingly this one classmate of theirs got a bad grade or whatever. That's how they describe it. She just killed herself, and the mystery was like even after she killed herself, like a week, like days and weeks later, she's still sending emails to her classmates, and she was talking about like still living or like abandoning her body to like live in the what was it? What did they cyber world? Like how did they call it? Um,
Wired, the
the
Wired.
Wired, exactly.
That's
Sorry,
what they called it.
they called the world like the whole Wired, and the whole mystery was packed as in like what did they say? It was like God is coming or God is here or whatever, which was like
No,
literally the
what she was saying is that there is a god in the Wired, so in the
exactly.
virtual
But
world, that there is a
she
god.
phrased it but she phrased it as in like God is here or whatever, right? And it was that whole
Yep.
mystery of like it was that whole mystery of like wait, what is she talking about? And like what does she mean with like God is here? What does she mean with like I just abandoned my body cuz life doesn't make sense or whatever? And just like the story just starts from there, which is like wait, no, like explain that first. Like let's but nah, it just dives in, and it's kind of good for it. But like, yeah, no, that's how the story goes, right? Like, what happened afterwards? What happened afterwards, in your opinion? Like after, what happened with Lane? What happened with Lane? Like, what role does she play? What did you see in that?
Well, first of all, she's the protagonist. I guess that's
Yes,
pretty obvious.
yes,
Um, well, first of all, before the incident, she seemed pretty uninterested in cyber technology, like in
yeah,
technology in general.
yeah,
She barely used her email account until her friend decides to, well, let's say she wasn't
Off
even
herself.
before that she wasn't really her friend.
They knew each other. They were just classmates.
Yeah, they knew each other,
Mm.
and she kind of gets into it that way by
Mm.
writing with her,
Yeah.
and then she decides to buy this computer. Like her father obviously buys it for her.
Which we also have to like point out. There's like this kind of contrast being created like in the beginning that her dad is like this like very computer enthusiastic guy, right? His like the first introduction that we found in him was like he was building like this 5 monitor, 6 monitor computer or whatever. But yeah, no, I don't know. I just wanted to drop that information. But yeah, continue.
Pretty cool guy.
Yeah, yeah, to some extent, yeah.
I kind of enjoyed her father, to be honest. Like
Now
he was, I mean,
he was still weird, but
he was kind of
he was
weird, but he was like the typical computer nerd. But I
exactly
just have like a feeling that he was maybe the most, let's say,
underrated.
responsible person in that moment. I mean, technically, her mother. You would think her mother was the most responsible, but
But yeah, no,
I wouldn't say that.
her mom
I
was
mean, her
just
mom was
passive.
kind of absent. You know, come
Exactly.
on, she was absent.
No, she was
It
kind
was
of
like she
passive
didn't
the whole
even.
time. She didn't even really
Yeah, it was
exist
like she didn't
actually.
even give a shit. I mean, she probably didn't give a shit about her daughter.
Yeah.
I'm not really like. Well, once she talks to her dad about it, but
But so
no,
yeah,
she barely interacts.
exactly. I mean she does interact from time to time, but it's like meaningless things.
Yeah,
And
I
so
mean,
this story,
let's
yeah.
let's sum it up this way.
Mm,
Well, let's say this girl called Lane, she had a
mm.
few problems, a few domestic problems.
Yes. Yeah. Let's just say she had a few, yeah.
Maybe that's what drove her, let's say, to have an affection for the virtual world.
The virtual world.
Like,
I didn't and that's like one of the few questions, the first questions that I had, right? Like how did she just flip like just 180, did like a whole 180 and just like become like this like she even become like way more tech nerdy than her dad, right? Like we can agree there. And
yeah,
um like she just did this whole 180 from like just not knowing anything, just like being this really like silent person who doesn't really have friends, is not social, to just dive into like the tech world and whatever, which can be really like it's not like this like a totally new concept, right? Like it happens all the time in real life where like people that don't do a lot in their, I don't know, daily activity, whatever, kind of do get addicted to technology. So it is kind of real in that hindsight, but I still didn't I still didn't like I still didn't really understand the mechanics of like how people go to the wire world, why they would do that, and why it's really that important. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
What did you get
I
from
didn't
that,
get
right?
I didn't get the mechanics either.
I,
So
it's such
let's
a
be
weird
honest. It
thing.
was not clear. It was not even clear how
It
she
really
uploaded the wire into
exactly
her mind. But I guess that's all.
consciousness.
It's also I believe it's all supposed to be like symbolic. Let's be honest, and
It
it
is
doesn't really matter in the story. You know, it's not
exactly
about the technology itself. It's more about
what it
what
contains.
happens, like the consequences.
Exactly. So what were the consequences? Like what happened with the technology? Like what happened with
Well,
the yeah.
let's say first of all, she enters this world, and like most of the people, she starts spending most of her time in it,
Yep.
and she barely comes back, let's say, to the reality.
Yeah,
And
she kind of gets sucked into it, right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what happens.
Exactly.
People start stalking her, which
Yeah,
shows, I
you
guess, the
mean the agents?
transparency.
The
For
agents, right?
example, the agents. For example, like you remember that guy standing behind a pole when she walks down the street.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think it
Wasn't
was.
it he was the agent, right? Like was he?
I think he
Like
was an agent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. But they were kind of keeping an eye on her even before like she fully developed herself in the wired reality.
Correct.
And yeah, which was, I don't know, it felt like, I mean, a criticism to the story, whatever, like it's probably like maybe we're just not understanding it correctly, but like the pacing of it was kind of weird. It was kind of off. And they did kind of
Yeah,
include
I
in the
agree on that
story.
one.
Yeah, yeah, but like we probably have to sum the whole story up before, but there was like talks about generally that she was in the wired reality even before she came in, right? Like she, it's so weird. Like I don't even know where to start talking about it.
Well,
But
probably, I would say she probably never really lived in reality.
that's such a weird statement to make. Like if she's completely
Like,
virtual
I mean, like
at that end.
mentally. I'm talking about her mental state. She never
Tr-
accepted reality. Maybe she never.
true, true. Like, but she still had to have like this one starting point, like where she like, you know what I mean? Like it can't be. That's what I think I disagree with the whole with maybe the series, as in like that um 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 she had to have like a starting point when she came in, because wait, so like the whole concept of her like existing in this wired reality before she even came in happened in this like in the cyber party whatever they had, right, in that scene. Do you remember that? I think it was in the
Yep.
first like the 3 episodes or whatever, like 3 episodes in,
In
right?
that
She's
cyber club.
exactly cyber club, you're right. She gets invited by her, I guess, new friends in that case that were trying to be nice to her. And after like she got the whole computer whatever, she went there, right? And she basically saw this one guy who as established before, like he, what did he take, like he took this like just weird drug,
Um, I
right?
wrote I wrote something about
Tell me about it, tell
this.
me about it.
I wrote something down. It's called the Excella. I mean, this
Yeah,
supposedly it's supposed to be some kind of drug, some kind of capsule. Probably it's a capsule,
it's it's
kind of
supposed to
weird
like
looking,
accelerate your like mind
and
or
it kind of
whatever, right?
accelerates your mind. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what it does.
exactly.
And I believe that's like it shows one of the consequences, maybe of like one of the implications of the reality connecting to the wired. People, in general, like even in our world, people, it's kind of everything's kind of accelerated. You have more access to everything. You have to also be faster in everything. I mean, you have to always be available. I mean, it's
You have to
your brain
respond
has to
quicker.
process things a lot faster,
Exactly.
especially working issues. And I guess that's what it wanted to show. That um, everything kind
But
of accelerates.
exactly. So like basically our reality and all, not only
And
culture, but
basically on a negative, it gives a negative view of it,
yeah.
on a negative basis. Not like, wow, everything's accelerating and that's a good thing. No, it's a bad thing because it confuses people and people get
Yeah.
stressed, and that's what happened to the guy.
He
So
got
it kind of
stressed.
it shows like that was the first implication it showed, the first negative implication of this, let's say, virtual world, like
Yeah.
the wired, call it the net. I don't know how you
But
want to call it.
exactly. But
Digital
was the guy
digitalization. Let's
really
call it digitalization because that's what it
exactly?
is.
That is what it is. However, was the guy really in the wired? Like wasn't he just like on drugs? Like he took this special one,
Well, that
right?
was not the question. I think it's just a
It's a
symbol.
symbolic, right? It could be.
It's just
But
symbolic. It doesn't. Most of it I think is symbolic in this case. We have like very
it
few
is, yeah.
things where you can really say this happened in the real world and this happened in the wired. Because mostly it's like both of them are like one. It's like together and it merges
Yeah.
throughout the series. It merges even more.
So that
So
was the whole
you
point
can't
of
make
it,
a
right?
distinction. You can't make a distinction. Um,
So
Therefore, it's just a symbol, and it shows one of the negative consequences
of
of
technology.
this of the merging of the merging of what the wired with the real world.
But
like the
once again, right?
let's call it
That is
digitalization, like I said.
exactly. But once again, that's like that's symbolic, right? And and I think that's why like we can I mean like people today and that's why the whole series actually kind of stands even stronger today than when it actually released, right? Like if you think about it, like it was released in was it in 1999 or 98, I think. And like virtualization
90,
computer and
98,
whatever
98.
98, you're right. Virtualization, computing and whatever is by far not the same to what it, like the extent to what it is today. You know what I mean? It doesn't even compare. And
Now let's be
like
honest. Back then, you had like that box computer, and you had maybe the normal web, and that was it. It was not like you had, first
it,
of all, no social media. Let's be honest.
you
And
didn't.
somehow, this anime shows and presents also kind of the concept of social media and
Yeah,
being famous on the internet.
yeah.
Let's be honest, and that's what I think. Um,
So okay,
and
let's go over because I'm still kind of confused about the plot, right? Like what the movie really
No,
like,
in
what the whole
general, I
story.
believe it's about the negative, let's say, consequences of digitalization.
Negative digitalized. I would absolutely agree
Exactly,
with you.
and it did it before things were even digitalized.
Exactly.
That's
So
the
it's kind
outstanding
of
part of it.
it's a very
So it was
predictive
kind of,
thing, right?
yeah.
But
So
this
it
is
kind of
how
was a
they
visionary thing. That's why I'm very, let's say, surprised. I was very surprised by watching it and seeing all those things that
I
actually
don't,
happen today, because that's what
that
happens
are
today. I
happening
mean,
and will continue on to get
that
worse
are
actually.
happening and probably will continue happening.
Exactly. But here, this is how they summarize the whole plot. And who's calling me? Sorry. Wait. Let's go. Okay, so this is how the internet kind of summarized the whole plot, and I'm gonna read it to you, and we can kind of pick it apart in between if we have questions, right? So here, the plot. The series focuses on Elaine Iwukura, right? An absolute middle school girl living in suburban Japan, and her introduction to The Wired, a global communication network which is similar to the internet. It is so we would agree there, right? Like it isn't only like similar to the internet, it's kind of internet just on steroids. It's
Well, it's supposed to represent the internet in the
yeah,
future.
yeah. Exactly, in the future, let's agree there because at that point like in 1998, like that's definitely not what the internet was. It's it's in a very exaggerated form which I mean for today's standards doesn't really seem too exaggerated because it's very clear that we're moving in that direction. And so Elaine lives with her middle school family. No way, her middle class family, which consists of her inexpressive older sister Mika. I wonder why they put it inexpressive. Why would they say her? Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. Her sister wasn't really inexpressive. She only became inexpressive after she was kind of replaced by her digital form, right? Or did I? Wait, what do you think? What happened with the sister? What happened with the sister?
Yeah, at one point she became inexpressive. I don't know what it had to do with anything though.
It had no intention. It just happened like that. So her emotion distant mother, exactly, and her computer obsessed father. Lane herself is somewhat awkward, introverted, and socially isolated from most of her high school peers. However, the status quo for her life becomes upturned by a series of bizarre incidents that start to take place after she learns that girls from her school have received an email from a dead student. She's whatever her name is. I forgot. And she pulls out her old computer in order to check the same message. Lane finds Chisa telling her that she's not dead and has merely abandoned her physical body and flesh and still alive deep within the virtual reality world of the Wired itself. Let's. Oh yeah, okay. She continues on to say where she has found the Almighty and Divine God. Right. Let's ask ourselves like that whole mechanics of reality, right? Where where y- where you potentially could kill yourself and kind of emerge in this virtual reality. which is still within
Um,
your reality. Is that even a
well, I
possibility?
believe I believe that's also just like symbolism for people who have
In what way?
abandoned real life. It's just people who have abandoned real life and kind of by kind of killing themselves. Like they just really don't exist in the real world. Like
Symbolically, where they're
and
passively living.
symbolically, it's
Okay.
metaphorically,
Uh huh.
and it means that she only lives in the for and in the virtual world. That's what it means.
That that could make absolute sense, and I think in that hindsight, we could actually say the same. Like we can see that with maybe her parents, right? Her like who could argue that her parents are actually real? And I don't know if you remember, like she was actually questioning that in the series at one point too, right? She was
Yeah, definitely she was. But I believe her parents were real.
they are real,
First of all,
but like
it's not.
symbolically, in the
No, no.
symbolic
Her
in this
parents were
in this
real. Her parents were real because in the end, she talks to her dad. Let's remember that one, which is an
no no no
important moment.
no, I
But
completely understand with you.
I
Like
believe just
they
she's like one of those typical girls, teenage girls who has family issues. Let's say her mother doesn't pay her attention,
yeah,
and her father just lives for his own hobby, and she kind of
exactly.
gets goes unnoticed, and
She
that's why
ex-
she kind of wants to flee from reality, and
that's what I
therefore
mean.
she discovers the virtual world through her so-called ex-classmate who did the same thing,
Who did the same thing and introduced it to everyone else, yeah.
and
But that's what I
therefore
mean, right? But what
yeah,
what I mean was that like is right. So basically, in her world, right, in her world lane, like there is this like virtual thing, this internet thing, whatever, right, the wild world, whatever. And like we discussed, and like you said before, right, it's all this whole symbolism of like people that actually that are not living their real lives, right, that are basically
correct.
like obsessed with the internet, whatever, right? What if you kind of apply that directly to, for instance, like her parents, that her mom was like really absent in the life of her daughter. She was emotionally absent, she's cold, whatever, right? And her dad just kind of, like you said, it like lives for his hobbies and whatever. And they all just live in their own kind of like reality and don't express themselves, or express themselves at the very least at very little, right, to like everybody else. And like
Yeah,
you
maybe
could
everybody
basically kind
lives
of
like in their own world. Let's say that one.
exactly. And the
Let's say it
wire
that way.
maybe
Yeah,
exactly, and the wire maybe is just a representation of maybe like in that world's physical or metaphysical representation of like everybody just escaping to that. But maybe her parents were
I
just
agree with that
escaping to
one.
something else, right?
100%. That's a very good thought.
Exactly. And that her parents can just generally like apply to just a lot of people living today, right, that are just, "Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna do this and folk life, whatever." And I don't know. It's in that hindsight, I really gotta give the whole series like a props, right? Like because I don't know, it really portrays like the effects it has, right? Like a very dysfunctional family in a lot of ways, and
Exactly. And also another thing I want to add is you know
yeah.
how the Wired is referred to as God.
Is it the Wired that is characterized as God, or is God in the Wired? How was it?
Well, it's mostly, well, you could say it's kind of the same thing, you know. It's like there's a belief in this virtual
Interesting.
world. There's like a belief system. It's their hope. That's, I guess, what it means by what they mean by God in
Yeah,
that
and out of
sense.
like, didn't he get like it was out of the whole sum of the hope and consciousness that was giving into it, like I think virtually God was like created. And he even said like wasn't he was talking to Lane at a certain point, and he said like, what's your definition of God? And he talked about like, okay, I'm not this like all creator, whatever, whatever. I love that dialogue between them, by the way. And he was talking about like, okay, maybe you kind of overestimate him, whatever, you give him too much props, whatever. I'm not the guy that created everything. But then she kind of says like, okay, but you're kind of every person here, whatever. And then he said, yeah, and that hindsight, you can kind of call me God, whatever. I don't know. I'm not doing the
No,
whole
he's like a
conversation
fake
justice.
god, and she realizes it at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, yeah. He's not the real thing. Like,
He's just
he's a
something
virtual
made
one.
by human beings. I mean, he's like
Exactly.
he made himself into this, and he's been made by others into that, into this so-called hope, piece of hope. That everything's connected. It's a
Exactly.
belief system. It's a firm belief system.
Like, it's an
People
artificial
believe
one.
in the virtual world, and that's what's happening nowadays as well. I mean, people believe in
Exactly.
technology. People believe in this digitalization, that it will solve our problems.
People believe in science.
People believe in people believe in science.
We're playing. But no, it's like, it's the whole concept is very interesting, right? Like, we can say it's a very artificial belief system, which
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reflects what we believe right now because
yeah.
we also believe that at least most people do that kind of technology and this digitalization will kind of solve people's problems. Like a god should.
Not only
Be
solve like
like the
the
perfect
problems,
thing.
be like the solution for everything. Exactly.
The
Like,
solution.
we have too much, and that hindsight, we can like, you can kind of agree with like what basically the god of the virtual reality kind of said. Like, you're giving like, what, I don't know what if he said, like, you're overestimating God or something like that, but like, we're artificially just kind of creating our, like, if I'm saying our,
Our
like,
own
as in
belief
like our whole
systems, our
society,
our own
belief
hope,
systems,
our own
our
goals.
deity. Exactly. And
Yeah,
expecting them to just
our own
solve everything,
deity.
right? And like, we're just expecting them to just kind of solve like around everything. And yeah, I don't know, it just shows
It
like
becomes an
this whole series.
ideology. That's the point.
Exactly.
It's
And it kind of manifests itself, right? Like, we can agree there. Like, if a lot of people kind of agree and believe and hope on something, like, to some extent it does manifest itself and become kind of reality to some extent, but not with all the hopes that we had with it, just a very different and self-formed reality.
well because it
Maybe,
isn't reality. That's the point.
exactly.
It's like you just create your own belief system. You're just so. Let's say the more you interact with it, the more you emerge or like merge with it, and that's actually what the anime is about. Merging
Yeah,
with this digital world, and
exactly.
you know being almost unable to escape, and it also shows things like cyberbullying, like those problems that nowadays
Yeah,
exist. The
even
ones
more
where
so.
rumors emerge about this girl who's in love with her teacher and stuff.
Which
I
came out
don't
of
if you
nothing, right? Can we agree there? Like, it, I didn't see
Yeah,
that
it came out of
coming at
nothing,
all.
but it was just to show this aspect of cyberbullying, I believe. And then there's
Wait
the
a
episode
minute.
called Kids, where those kids just look up kind
And
of to the
they see,
sky
yeah, yeah,
and
and
they see her face.
they see Lane coming out, yeah, like from the
Yeah,
clouds, yeah.
it just shows how even the kids get influenced by this role model. I mean, she kind of becomes, let's say,
Oh
well, in the end, she kind of
wow.
becomes the god of this let's say virtual world. She kind of becomes its god, and she's like famous, and even the kids look up to her.
Yeah.
That's what it actually means, that and those kids kind of, don't they kind of die? At least that's what
Yeah,
that
we can
professor
agree.
says.
Yeah, they
Because
do.
she's like a fake role model. She's like
But
perfection, and that's what's
oh
happening.
wow.
Even we nowadays on the internet, like on the social media, everybody's perfect. She in that case is perfect, and kids kind of get confused with that, and they want to aspire to being like her, and obviously they can't, because reality is just not how perfection doesn't work in reality. If you
But no,
understand what
it's,
I mean.
I know, like, I 100% understand. Like, I didn't even, like, you brought up like this idea of like the social media, which I completely didn't even think about. Right, I was still like, to this point, I was really still confused about like, okay, while talking about this whole bullying thing, right? And like, this friend of hers, right? Like, she liked her was it no, teacher, right? and she was kind of fooling out with her teacher, and her secret got exposed by none other than Lane. And I didn't understand that, like, this whole dynamic of like there was like this virtual Lane, which was basically just laughing at her, and
Let's
I
say
was
Lane
like,
has kind of a split personality.
that's what I mean.
Um,
Like Lane
in
basically
the
has
real
this
world, she's
split
like an
person.
introvert, while in the virtual world, she's an opposite. She kind of has this.
Exactly. But I didn't even think about it like in terms of social media, right? I was like trying to rationalize everything like very like holographic, sorry, holographic and like virtual reality type. But you don't even have to push it to that extent. Technology, it can literally just be social media in itself, right? And how people have two or multiple personalities along with their like real
Correct.
self and their online presence, right? And
Correct.
like in connection with what you said before with like cyberbullying, it all just kind of makes sense now. Like
It kind of makes
it's
sense. In fact, um, as you said,
it,
she has multiple personalities. She can be like whatever she wants in the virtual
mm,
world, which she can't be in reality, and that's what kind of drives her into this virtual world in the first place. You know, the
yeah.
fact that she can be whatever she wants to be, and she can be perfect and
And she
extroverted like she wanted to be. Maybe
it,
in real life, have
but not
friends and
only
have.
that, but not only that, she kind of like along with that, she kind of starts to resent her other side too, right? And
Yeah.
she kind of unpredictably does things that she doesn't even like want to do, right? Like her bullying her friend. She had no reason to do so. Like, right? As far as I know, like there was no explanation of like why she spread rumors like that and confirmed that they were true, whatever. And when she was asked why she did it, she just laughed at her virtual self, at least, right? And her real self in that hindsight just hated that. You know what I mean? Like there was like this split got created, and both of them started hating each other, and yeah, which made it it's making sense as I'm talking, and that's actually fascinating as hell.
Isn't it?
It really is. It really is, right? And it really shows the fact that like people out there like living their virtual reality, which is happening, right? Like before
Of
you
course, it's
really mention
happening.
exactly, like before you really mentioned this whole cyberbullying thing, which I don't know why I didn't think about it at all. Like this whole cyberbullying thing and this second persona, whatever. I was still thinking like, okay, maybe our culture is still kind of moving to that, right? I wasn't as much taking it as a very like symbolic thing. I was taking it more literal, right? And but no, it's that like all these things that were said like in this series like are and have been happening at least for the last 5, maybe even 10 years at the very, wouldn't you say? Like you could apply that to maybe like Twitter or maybe like modern day influencers or or
Exactly.
just
Modern day
normal
influencers,
people,
for
right?
example.
Like people just change when they have like a social media following, right? They kind of get obsessed by it and
You
they
know, it's
kind of
it's it's like it's like symbolic for fame. I guess that's it. It's just
it's yeah,
like them
exactly,
becoming
fame.
famous for just like one aspect of their life. It's not like it's not like the whole person. It's just
Exactly.
the side they want to show people.
Exactly.
The perfect side, like like usually influencers do on social media, and she kind of resents herself for not being so perfect as she
For
portrays herself.
exactly for the image that she created or that she's sending out.
Exactly.
And
She
and
wants
that's
she
also
wants to
the key
aspire to
point.
be a god, to be perfect, and
Exactly.
she kind of hates herself
Wow.
for not managing to reach that point.
And you just basically said it. Like now the whole concept of like the concept of God that they presented from a virtual one, like it also makes sense now, right? It's not a being that created everything. It's a being that is basically just perfect in that reality, right? That can be whatever it wants
Correct.
and is everywhere at the same time. Like that's popularity mixed with just a perfect image and like people looking up to you, whatever, right? And that's what she, along with everybody else, is aspiring to. It all adds up, man. It's all adding up. What the heck? And
Okay.
yeah, but a main point that is very interesting to see is actually like that it's actually very corrupting, right? Not only corrupting, but also like it's conflicting. You kind of, you do, these people also kind of start hating themselves, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree on that one. Definitely.
Like, like
Like I
for all the
said,
bad things she
the
did.
internet is transparent. Everybody
Yeah,
knows like most things about everybody, and
yeah.
that's what it is. You know, it's like you can't hide yourself. You know,
Not only
especially
that,
when you're
what I mean,
famous, and that also gets like, and that's also a
true.
problem, and that's also one of the things this show kind of portrays. And then there are obviously these men in black, you know,
Yeah,
who are kind of, let's say they're
look, keeping an eye on
I
you.
kind of thought of them as the people that want to control everything, you know, behind the scenes. They're
Interesting
kind of
that you,
like,
I would say like like they were warning everything, right? Like they were warning Lane, like okay, this can be dangerous. Like if you do this, if you move on, right? I
but
kind of
let's
saw
remember
them
that
as
also the
the
so-called
good
god,
force.
you know, she meets this Airy guy,
Yeah,
this Airy, you know, um, he's, let's say he's being supported by those men in black because he's like kind of their puppet. I guess that's what it is.
yeah, yeah. They do want to
And
monitor everything.
you know, they live, they don't, these men in black obviously don't live in the in, let's say they have no connection whatsoever to nobody knows who they really are. Like, you know, they're behind the scenes, they're
Yeah,
not in the virtual world, they just
exactly.
operate, they
Yeah,
just maneuver these people like Lane and like this guy to become these kind of famous people, these
yeah,
so-called gods on the network, so they can
yeah.
control them. And Lane
So
doesn't,
they can
kind of
control them.
disagrees with them. Lane disagrees with them, and she kind of exposes them. That's why they disappear in the end.
Yeah.
Um,
So that
exactly.
was basically their role. So the question that I wanted to ask, right, and I think it's an important question, is like who's really like could you like if you applied that in real life, if you took the symbolism and like we did earlier apply it to like basically social media and how people just with a small amount of following and like this image that they want to reach or whatever get corrupted and become just basically douchebags and assholes or whatever, right? Are they really at fault, right? Was 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 it really Lane's fault basically that she exposed her friend, or that she kind of like that she had this terrible virtual reality of herself? Does that question make sense?
Well, it's her fault for getting into it in the first place. Let's say that.
Definitely.
Except, you know,
But
she didn't want to confront her real world problems. That's why
yeah,
she fled into the
virtual
virtual world.
reality.
And you know, once you're in there, it's hard for you to come back. That's
Exactly,
what it
cuz
says. You know, you can't
cuz
escape
cuz
because
it's
everything's
so
accelerated. Like she says, everything's
exactly.
connected. You remember that guy that shoots himself in the club? You know, when
After
she
he
tells him
kills two
everything's
people,
connected,
yeah, everything is connected, yeah.
that's what she says,
Such a
and he
weird
shoots
scene.
himself because he, for him, it's just like, you know, this accelerated virtual reality merging with reality. For him, it's just like unbearable, and that's why he shoots himself. I guess that's my interpretation
Exactly.
of the event.
No, no, of the whole event. No, no, you're absolutely right. But what I mean is like it's obviously her and everybody's fault that like that they initiated this whole entrance into the virtual reality, whatever, right? However, what like a very main like message that I got from the whole series basically is like once you're in like this whole reality of it, like this whole like culture behind it or whatever, it corrupts you, like it changes you, and you might think you're
Definitely
being your
corrupts
true
you.
you might think like you're being your true self or whatever, but you're being like something that you actually kind of resent at the same time too, or
You know,
eventually you kind of
you're
hate.
just being a perfect thing that you are not. Get it?
Exactly.
And for
Absolutely.
example, what I
So,
wanted to say is,
perfectly said.
you remember that part where she starts seeing doubles of herself?
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Like who
that
was
kind of shows how
personalities, right?
people are aspiring to be like her, and some people actually like manage to do that. Yeah, you know, like also portray like this perfect, um, the perfect, you know, the perfect side of themselves, and she kind of confuses them with herself, because she just thought she could like be the god of everything and the only one, and she starts seeing other people being exactly like her. And
Yeah.
I guess that's one of those aspects like that's happening today. People just a few people just aspire to be like a famous person, like copy
That they
them
didn't
and
they don't
be
that they
exactly
don't
like
really
them.
know, right? Exactly, that they don't really like in depth know. Like if you look up to like this one person that might have like 2 or 3 million followers, whatever, that is posing like, let's literally put it like that, like that is really posing to be God, right? Like this virtual one that is huge following, who's claiming to be perfect, and you're trying to be him. Like you're you're gonna become perfectly something that you're not, whatever, or that you don't have inside of you, that you
Correctly.
shouldn't have, or that you genuinely wouldn't have become. And in the other side as well, like that person who has these 3 million followers, whatever, he or she is doing things um that he or she doesn't really believe in, but like he has to have this one image, or he thinks he has to have this. It's very corrupting. That's what I
Well,
learned
she
from it.
technically believes in that. That's the point. She really believes that she can be that perfect thing. That perfect being, and it's kind of corrupting for her that when she realizes she has all those doubles that do exactly the same thing as her and look like her.
Yeah.
She realizes for the first time that she's replaceable.
Yeah, that's the point as well. Like it's not that everybody can be this, like this, I don't know, this god, right? Like it's the fact that like only certain
If an
people.
idea, if you're like an idea, you're like perfection.
Yeah.
You're like
And
portraying your perfect self. Other people can do that as well, and you're like,
exactly. She learned
it's
that she's not
something.
special.
You're not yourself. You're not unique. By doing that, you're not
Exactly.
unique. People can just copy you and do the same thing as you do. I mean,
And maybe even do
obviously
it
putting a
better.
lot of effort in it and spending maybe the same time in their, let's say, virtual dream world as you, but they reach you, and then she kind of realizes that she's replaceable. She
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
really.
She's not really that special. Like anybody could,
Correct.
like there could be someone who does it better than her and reach higher stands or whatever. And yeah, that was the whole message. It's like it's a whole place that you enter out of a desire to have a better reality, but to really like not only discover yourself but like
It's
expose
just
yourself in a good
it's
way.
modern social media. That's what it
It
is.
really
It's
is. It
it's like
really is. You're
one.
absolutely right. You like you really branded that whole like idea of it, like that it's social media in my head. I didn't even think about it before, but it absolutely makes sense. The fact it is, it really is. And I don't know who directed it. I would assume it's a he, but he really did portray social media as it is today, 20 years early. That's literally
20
what
years
he
early.
did.
I mean, even the guy who wrote the manga, who drew the manga, let's say drew, wrote,
I
I
didn't read
mean,
the manga
it's
yet. Is
both,
it
I
good?
think. Now, of course, I haven't read it,
But I
but
mean, it's
let's say,
obviously based on the
usually the
manga, so yeah,
manga's created
better than the
before the
anime.
anime. So
And
this
it's
guy,
better
it's
than the
like
anime mostly.
25 years ago, more
Word
or
by
less.
word predicted
He already
what is happening
predicted what's
today.
going to happen when people have social media and start
That is
spending a lot of time
fascinating.
in this so-called virtual world,
That is
which is kind of
fascinating.
astonishing for me. It's like it's
It's
pretty good, gotta be
no,
honest.
but it's like
um
no, it's like it makes it so amazing the fact that you can actually like it's it's almost like a prophecy, isn't it? Like it's almost like somebody's telling you like, okay, this and this and this is gonna happen in this way, and they're speaking in metaphors, and then you're just reading it and watching it while it happens, like in real life, and that's crazy to me. That's really crazy to me, and I don't know. It's we should have seen that movie, or the society should have seen it 20 years early, man. Like it's kind of
Definitely,
too
but
late at this point.
gotta be honest, it's pretty hard to
Understand.
understand. You have to really get deep into it and think about it, and most people obviously don't.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't really understand it like watching it right now, like until you kind of explained it to me.
well,
But
it is kind
like,
of
imagine
confusing. I mean, the
it is
ghosts
kind of
and all
confusing.
the, it's not very clear. It doesn't portray the message in a real clear way. It's like really.
it just sprays it on everybody.
transcendent shit, you know, like
Exactly. But it's,
it,
I mean, I most obviously wouldn't have understood it like 20, I mean, I wasn't even alive 20 years ago, but if I was, like, I probably would have thought like, okay, what is, it's just some sci-fi stuff, you know, it's just some fantasy, whatever, like holograms, what are you talking about? Like, we can't go into our
definitely.
phones or whatever. But now it's just like, it doesn't even have to be like you physically going into your, like this, like like electronic world, whatever. It's literally just like the whole idea of like social media and pictures and whatever, and it's absolutely fascinating. Like, I can't,
It's
there's little
fascinating.
words to say.
You know, the
there's
whole
li- it,
fusion with the real world with the Wired, which is
and that's the thing,
what's
and that's the thing, like they were talking about, like with the whole fusion, which I did, once again, like, I didn't understand, like I understood what, maybe like what it meant in some ways, but not very deep enough, right? They were talking about like, it was very similar to like Paprika, right? Like, where they were talking about like the dream world and reality kind of fusing, whatever.
correct.
And what I basically did is, okay, I just took the whole idea from Paprika and just said, okay, it's maybe just like this whole virtual thing just coming back to like fusing to reality. But I would even argue like right now and say like like the whole series with Lane, it goes even deeper in that, and it says like it doesn't really have to like visually even really happen like that. It just metaphysically just fuses. You know what I mean? People acting in real life as if they are in the virtual reality, and like
Correct.
information being passed out, whatever, right? You just see like sometimes I would even bring that example, right? Like for someone, like I'm not even that much on Twitter, right? I don't know about you, but you, for
Nah, I've
instance,
never been on Twitter, to be honest.
you've never been on Twitter. That is
No, never been
crazy.
on Twitter.
I guess that's a good thing. I guess
I
that's really a good
despise
thing.
that platform. I despise it
Me too. Me
from
too.
like all my
I would
heart.
even argue everybody does. I would even argue that everybody does, and that's my point, right? Like Twitter is just so like controversial. Like it's basically a platform for just people to just argue and shout at each other. It's not even like a place to like share information and like discuss ideas, whatever. It's for people to like, it has a word limit of like, I think 100 characters, whatever. If you like with 100 characters, you're just supposed to come like compress like a huge amount of information and just shoot it at another person who disagrees, and it just builds this whole toxic
Yeah, it's a
culture.
toxic environment,
Everybody hit
let's be honest, of
exactly
people
a really
who have nothing to say but just say something just for the sake of
exactly
saying something.
Exactly. And that's it. Like people out of that get followings, and they just make a career of just like stating these things, getting a huge reaction or controversy, and just maybe trending or maybe not, right? And
Correct.
because it's so many people now that are just shouting at each other, some people really do start thinking like the whole spectrum of like political idea and debate and everything is contained in this one app, right? Like some people really start thinking that Twitter is really like real. You know what I mean? Like like if you
Correct.
start like if you start having conversations on it, like just a basic example, like if you start having conversation with people on Twitter, you just kind of find your niche with like maybe left leaning people, or maybe even right, like let's say left leaning because it's more accurate. Left leaning people, and then you just kind of find more and more left leaning people, and you start thinking, okay, so maybe the whole of America is just generally left leaning, but you just kind of don't realize that there are people that don't use Twitter, like for you example, right? That might have a different perspective. So whenever you go outside of Twitter and you see people that are not left leaning in America, maybe having a protest together, whatever, you just kind of get surprised because that's not what your reality or your concept of it was. You know what I mean? Some people kind of get encapsulated with like these social media apps, and that's how I'm seeing like uh, that's how I'm seeing Serial Experiment Lane now, like translate to our reality today. Like, it's
Correctly. I mean,
amazing.
the same goes for
It's
Instagram itself, you know.
it,
People spend a lot of
Instagram,
time on
every
them, like doing their profiles and stuff, and don't do shit in the real world.
editing their butt
And
cheeks, whatever. I don't know everything else.
correct,
You know, you're
correct.
selling an image. You're selling an image, right? Like
Doing Q and
you're
A's, you know,
doing Q and A's
and
or
other
whatever.
kind of stuff. Like
But
we don't wanna get into what people do on
to
Instagram.
I mean, everybody
Um,
knows at this point. But
but
everyone like
let's just reach now. Let's just go to the ending of
yeah,
Serial Experiments Lane. I mean, she kind of merges with the Wired. She
yeah.
uploads it into her own mind, and what happens is
That
that
was
she
kind of a
becomes
Lucy
this
ending, right?
so-called
Like
social media, this so-called digital god, or
exactly.
goddess because she's a woman.
I
And
would argue God doesn't have a gender, but I don't know.
when
No,
she
no, you're right.
realizes,
You're right.
when she realizes that it's actually shitty being that way.
It's not how she expected it, right?
Exactly. She kind of realizes it's meaningless. It's a meaningless existence. So
It
what
doesn't have.
happens is
Yeah.
she kind of says this phrase. I wrote it down. If nobody remembers you, it's like you never existed.
Yeah. And I was
So
deep.
what she does is she cancels the memories of let's say everybody who knew her, and
Didn't she do that
virtually
before as
and
well?
physically.
Didn't she do
What?
that? Didn't she do that before as well? Like she tried it at a certain point where. Do you remember? Like it was right after when she exposed her friend for like whatever she was doing with her teacher or whatever,
Correct. Yeah, she
and
tried that.
she cried and she deleted like. I mean, she like once again symbolically deleted all the information, whatever, and it seemed like everything came back to nature. But she officially did that at the end. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
She did, but she's still in that let's say bubble where she thinks that she
Yeah.
has control over everything,
Yeah.
even though she realizes her existence became meaningless, and the way of being is like it doesn't have a sake, you know.
Yeah. But it's
And
like,
what happens is her father emerges,
yeah.
and nobody should be remembering her, but somehow her father does, which
Hmm.
kind of makes her remember, oh, maybe the real world really has some kind of meaning, and goes beyond this virtual world I've created, and it really has some substance to it. So she kind of goes back and tries to go back to the real world, and she
Real
does,
world.
um,
Yeah.
which is quite astonishing. I mean, it's kind of a surprising ending, to be honest. I didn't think
It's a
she would
perfect
kind
ending.
of manage to go back, and manage to put her life together,
Exactly.
and
I
she
think you
realizes
said
she has control. She realized she had like she didn't even actually have like real control over anything, because the virtual world kind of exists, but it's also
without her,
not the real
it's
world. It's not the real world. That's the point. You
that's
have
the
you have control over something virtual. Something
exact
actually non-existent. Something. It's not.
something
You
you
can't
can't
even call
touch.
it parallel, because it kind of isn't parallel, because it kind of merged, but it's not the real world. It's not nature.
It's a
It's not.
derivative of it.
Um,
It's a derivative
it's
of it,
not your
right?
real. It's not your feelings. It's not the feelings. She realizes she actually does have feelings for people. you
Yeah.
know she wanted to distance herself from everything, from those
For
feelings, from being
everybody.
like a human being, which means having feelings, loving maybe your family, loving, or even hating, whatever, like all those flaws we have, which make each and every one of us different, and I mean, which kind of defines a human being, having feelings. And she kind of realizes that she can't just delete them, and she actually likes those feelings, and she loves you. Most of all,
Yeah.
this feeling is portrayed when she talks to her father, and he says, um, "You do love all of them, don't you?" or something like that, and she kind of
Mm.
starts crying. That's when she realizes, yeah, yeah, well, there's actually something to it, and maybe I should put my life together and go back to
I
the real world and try and,
exactly.
and love people and interact with people like you know
I think
um
keyword is like you said it, bro. I think getting your life together, right? And It's fascinating that you said that, because that's really what applies with like social media. And I can't get away from it. Like I have to always like compare it with social media, because that's literally what it is for me. And it's the fact that like whatever you're doing on social media, and if you're like if you're caught by it, right, if you're caught in its reality, that, and if you start thinking that that is all there is to be, right, like in this virtual reality, that at the end you're kind of accomplishing nothing with it. There's actually no substance to it, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're saying, whatever popularity you're getting, like you can't get anything that is like real. You know what I mean? It's still can I can't explain it, because I still think it's because it's virtual, right? Whatever you can get from it is also virtual. Does that make sense? And that's what I
Correct.
got from the and that's what I got from all of it, right? Like, and once you really completely immerse yourself in it, right? Like once you really abandon like your real life out of it, right? Whatever family you might
Definitely.
have, whatever job you might have, whatever hobbies and happiness, whatever you had in real life, whenever you abandon that to just really pursue like this social media presence and this height, like you just kind of realize that you lost it all. You know what I mean? Like this whole virtual thing wasn't really like
It wasn't
what
anything
would you say?
substantial, you know. You could say it
Exactly.
was blank because it was
It,
everything to her, but in the end, it was like nothing, you know.
it was actually nothing, and it seemed like it
It
was
was
everything.
nothing.
Yeah, it was a nothing burger. Like it seemed like it wasn't a like it wasn't a denominator on anything. It was basically
Yes.
it wasn't a luxury, but like it was an addition that wasn't necessary at all, and it controlled your mind so much that you actually think, no, that's where everything is at. And once you really do get obsessed by it, you might escape it. And as Lane did at the end, like she kind of realized that there's no point to it. And I need to go back, and you might escape from it. I mean, living today, basically, like, if you get really obsessed with social media, internet, whatever, you might escape it. You might not. But once you do, the thing that you would do is basically, like you said earlier, just get your life together, right? Like focusing on reality. And I
Focusing
think
on feelings, you know,
on
on
lively
real
things.
relations and
Exactly.
relationships and friends
But
and whatever. You have like your own small circle of people. And
that's the point, right? Like I think that's the contrast that the series kind of creates, where it basically tells the message of like social media. It says, okay, in social media you can kind of express yourself to the extent that it is is not allowed in reality, right? That's what makes social media attractive, because you can shout as much as you want, you can insult people as much as you want, you can say whatever you want, no consequences. Like, you don't even have to show your face. You can, you don't have to. It's the freedom that comes with it, with social media, that attracts people. And from that freedom, people start creating this new personas that they think is actually their ultimate persona, right? It's like it's whatever I can actually be. It's the best that I can be. And they kind of start thinking that, okay, maybe like I can't become these things in reality, only to find out at the end they can become these things in reality, right? It's the like you said it earlier as well. Like, you're really bringing the good points today. But you said like Lane was escaping her responsibilities, her uncomfortable situations in reality, to just express herself in the virtual reality. However, like facing these problems in real life is just gonna get not only a real but a better satisfaction out of it. You know what I mean? I think
correctly.
that was that was the whole message out of it, right?
Correctly
Don't
expressed. Very
don't chase
nice.
anything. Thank you. Exquisite, as some people would say, but
Exquisite.
exquisite.
Astonishing.
So
Splendid. Wonderful.
exactement. But
Wonderful.
that was the whole message, and it's such a beautiful message that stands even taller today than it ever has. It's probably gonna be even more important as time goes on. I don't think a lot of people are gonna learn from it, but that's what I got. It's a top tier anime. It's up there for me now.
It's top tier. What would you say, like, if we had to give it a rating
I
out
would
of 10?
out of 10, I would give it. I mean, The thing is like, what are the factors, right? It's obviously up there, but
Let's start. Well, we could like divide it into factors. Let's say, first of all, how did you like the visuals?
it was great. It was, I mean, it didn't. It obviously could have been better, whatever. Like from like
Well,
today we've
let's be
seen better
honest.
anime,
It's
right?
from
For the time,
1998, so I
that's
guess
what I mean. For the
visuals are
time, it
pretty
was
good.
pretty good. For the time, it was pretty good. For the message that he wanted to tell, it does it pretty like it like you're not left like wanting more. You know what I mean? Like it does it pretty well, even for today's standards. So I would like that's a 9.5 in my opinion. Like from that hindsight, from the animation side. What would you say for the story? Not the
Um,
message, not anything, but
well,
just the
usually I
story, like
wouldn't
the
say it's
plot.
my. Technically, it's not my genre.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would have given it like an 8 out of 10. Just because it's
Okay.
not my genre. But
Okay.
obviously, the message is very important. I
I
can't
would
deny
agree.
that one. I have to say the visuals were pretty good for that time. The only thing is maybe it's a bit confusing, and they could have made the message a bit more obvious and
A
not
bit
confuse
more
people
the
so much.
pacing too.
People enter this anime and are like, what the fuck, you know?
Exactly.
And
I
that's what
swear,
happens, and it
I
kind
was
of
watching
distracts them from
episodes
the
like,
actual message.
what is
They
happening?
just think it's a fucked up, kind of crazy show,
Yeah, it
which I
doesn't make
believe
like
is
it
it's the
doesn't
wrong
make like
approach.
it's yeah, you're right. It doesn't make like it doesn't make its target like message whatever like obvious.
Clear.
Okay, okay, not obvious. Like it doesn't have to be obvious, but it doesn't make it clear,
It
right?
shouldn't be,
It does. It obviously like
but
it shouldn't tell you the message from the beginning on. Like that's something you should think on yourself, whatever. But it was you're right. It
right.
was a bit too confusing from the get go. But
Yeah,
how
so I
would you
guess
rate
I
it
would give it
again?
an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of
Um,
10. What's the third
which
factor? We've got anime, we've got story and message, and
should we give it a third factor? Like, I don't know.
basically
I
like
guess
maybe
we can leave it
length.
at that,
Like
to
how
be
this
honest.
how I mean yeah, like how long the story was. Like maybe that. Like it took around. Wow,
Yeah, well, it was
what
13 episodes. I guess that was enough. And yeah,
episode count? Wait. Oh damn! It
it's
does
still
say it has
13
13. That doesn't make
because it
sense.
does. Maybe you
I
watched
have
like one twice or something. I don't know.
no. Wait, look. 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh wait, hold up. I got okay. Two episodes were called ED and OP. What does that mean?
Opening and ending. No, wait. EV. Did you say EV or IV?
Oh my bad. I confused them with. Those were literally the
Well,
first two things that
oh,
I saw.
we can say something about the music. Did you enjoy the music, like the opening music? I thought it was kind of
Was there
cool. I have to say
was
it
there
was kind of
music?
relaxing.
Wait, hold up. What are you talking about? Wait, like, was there music? All I saw was basically like this cybernetic introduction where it was like blue screen and things moving around. What are you talking about music?
Technically, there's like an opening, like the classic anime opening and the ending,
Wait,
like the
what?
outro. Let's call it outro because that's what it is.
Oh, you mean the outro or the intro? Like at the beginning?
Both of them, intro and outro. I like both of them. The outro is kind of more like rocky, and the intro is more like a bit more soft and it's kind of like a contrast to what it kind of the intro is also very, let's say, melancholic. Can you say melancholic? Is that
Wait, I
correct? Like,
swear. No, you're right. I mean, vocabulary wise, but my episodes didn't have intros or outros. It literally just started with the whole story. No, I mean, it started with like her monologue every time, and it was like basically like this 3 seconds intro with like just cybernetic things like talking and saying like, okay, this is this episode, whatever.
oh yeah, right, okay, well,
And the
I had
outro is
intros.
basically like the story just ends. Like it talks about it and then bam. What the
I
heck?
had intros, if that's what you wanted to ask me. Yes.
Wait, hold up. Maybe it was like the first two things that I seen. Wait, is it this one?
Exactly, that's what it is.
Okay. So they just gave it to me in different video things. Yeah, that
I
was
guess
the
that's
first
from
thing
the
that I
English
saw.
version, right?
Is it the English version?
Is it the
No, it's
English version? I
Japanese.
don't know.
No,
Oh,
it's
it's actually the
Japanese.
Japanese version. Okay, so never mind that one.
You should have
Yeah,
watched the
that's what I mean by
original.
intro.
I didn't think it was the
I
intro
have to
because it
say
was
I
the
enjoyed
first
it very
two
much.
things that I see.
Gotta be
No, no, it
honest.
sounds
It kind
good.
of
It
fitted the
sounds
story.
it fits the vibe. Like it gives you like a dark theme, like a
I guess
what's
we gotta
this?
watch out with the copyright, not you don't. I mean, like,
You're right. You're
Mr.
right.
Unit.
Don't worry about it. I'm
Let's
gonna
just
tone
cut
it down
that
at
out.
that
Let's
point.
just cut that out.
I'm gonna tone it down at that point. But no, it fits the vibe. I don't even pay attention to that. But what an amazing series. So you said an 8, I said a 9. The median is like an 8.5, I think.
Five.
So that's up. Wait,
Um,
wait, wait. We didn't rate Paprika last time. We
didn't
didn't
we?
rate Paprika. No. We didn't. I don't think we gave it an official number. So we gotta no. We gotta create our own tier and our list of like animes. What do you think about that? Like
Agree.
I mean,
Like, I agree. I
of the
agree.
ones we watch, of the ones we
Would
watch,
be
and then we
doing
have like
that definitely.
we'll have like a top 10 list, and it's gonna continue to top. I don't know, 25, whatever. So okay, we got, and I'm probably gonna write this down. So we got Serious Experiment Lane at what, 8.5,
Eight point
and
five.
exactly, how would we rate um how would we rate Paprika? What would you say?
It's an.
Like
I'd say an 8.5.
an 8 point. Okay, on which factor, right? We had okay, we had story. We had okay, animation was okay.
I'd say
Animation,
overall 8.5.
story, and message.
The story was fucking great. Can't like
Yes.
I'd say it was even better, like portrayed way better than Serial Experiments Lane, and the message was maybe a bit
I
more
would.
well
I
done.
would.
Let's be honest.
Okay, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's my personal bias then, but I kind of like Serious Experiment Lane a bit better. This whole virtual thing is, I don't know, maybe like resonates with me a bit better. Like, why am I getting a second call? Oh my goodness. Let's go. Um, wait,
Okay,
I'm back.
I'd
Okay, where
say
were
we
we?
can round it
Paprika.
up, Nati. Let's
Yeah,
maybe
but
just say let's just give
Paprika.
them
We didn't rate Paprika yet. We didn't rate
yeah, well,
Paprika
right.
yet.
We're gonna rate Paprika.
Yeah. So you said an 8.5. Um, I kind of liked. I kind of liked Serious Experiment Lane. I actually liked it a bit more because I don't know, the social media thingy. It kind of hit me. It kind of hit me out of nowhere. I would give it a 9, but I kind of gave no. I kind of no. Wait. I kind of gave Serious Experiment Lane a 9. So Paprika, I would say 8.5. 8.5. So both of them end at 8.5, right?
8.5. So we're gonna leave it like same rating. 8.5
Same.
overall.
Both end up at 8.5. Yes. So yeah, I think okay, I don't know. Let's wrap this up. I guess another episode of an anime review or discussion, whatever. And wait. Okay,
Pretty
so
deep
what's
discussion.
what's next week's gonna be? I guess we'll discuss that offline. But yeah, thanks for participating, and see you next week. That's it.
Have a good whatever's left of your Sunday.
Whatever, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Have a nice whatever left of Sunday you have. Let's go. Conclusion and cut.